Hi, everyone. Welcome again to our author interview segments. Today, I'm very excited to interview a man with two first names, Bert-Oliver. Pronounce your last name for me.
It's Boehmer with a
Yep.
German umlaut, but now
Right.
spelled with an OE. Makes it a little bit easier.
Yes. So, Boomer. Did I say it right? I'm just going to call you Bert-Oliver and we'll go with that.
Please do.
Terrific. So, do you want to just start by telling our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a major geek. I'm a computer scientist. Also, went from there into bioinformatics, molecular biology. I like all this kind of stuff. Science always interested me. When I was born, we just landed on the moon. Of course, that dates me quite a bit, but
That's
so
okay.
I was sort of a child of the space age, if you will. In that also get reflected in my reading habits. So I picked up science fiction, everything I could find very early on. So the litany of the grades of science fiction of all I all have them. I have to say as a disclaimer here, this is my own book here. It's the only book you see behind me. We're currently moving house. So my own book is not the only book we have in this household. We have all the other books too, but they're already in boxes. Just a disclaimer. So I read all of those. I think what inspired me most was, I think the perfect blend of true science and fiction at the time in Foundation from Asimov. I like the immense depth of world building in something like Dune from Herbert. But I'm also the figurine you see here. This is from Star Wars, a major Star Wars fan,
Nice.
mostly the original trilogy, but that gets us into the weeds here if we start discussing. So all around science fiction was my key interest. So naturally, when I had all these story ideas in my head, they all revolved around distant future, space opera, and this is where the book is set.
Terrific. So the book is called Three Immortals. Now I'm just going to read out the blurb that goes on the back cover, if that's okay. All right. So here's how it goes. He is an interstellar war hero who never lost a battle. Can he save his nation from destruction by an invading galactic superpower? Kel Chaada is a master tactician who quickly rose from soldier to leader. When his family's successes threaten to unravel the web of lies protecting humanity's immortal rulers, his life gets crushed. Betrayed and cast out, Kel flees to the fringes of the galaxy. He enters the realm of ancient alien civilizations and discovered the legendary powers they have to share. The hostile machines and silicate monsters Kel was taught to fear may be the allies he needs. Kel returns, leading two alien battle fleets. Will he be a savior or a conqueror? Nice, very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, so now with the Three Immortals, first tell us how you felt when you finished the first draft.
Worn out and happy.
Okay.
I think it's a major milestone, the first draft. Always when you do it for the 15th time, certainly when you do this for your debut novel, what Three Immortals is for me. I think it's the final proof that you can actually write something that is novel length, and you have something that has a beginning, a middle, and an ending, most importantly.
Yeah. And so when you did that, what was your next step after the draft?
Right after finishing the first draft, I went into story editing.
Okay.
So I wrote down every chapter, every scene in a linear time fashion, because honestly, otherwise I would have lost my mind. But that's not how I wanted to tell the story.
Okay.
The story is told in a non-linear fashion. There are parts where you look back 20, 40 years into the past. It doesn't, the first chapter is not necessarily the first thing that happens. So There are story arcs that happen in parallel and they're told from different points of view, so they're happening at the same time, but you see the different perspectives. And without a tool like StoryTeller, this would have been really hard for me to arrange. So it allowed me to work with, well, one tool I really like is the story arc, where you can see, are you totally off with your alignment of this, is your climax way too early, way too late? Where is the halfway point of your book actually at the halfway point or not? So it allowed me to tell the story in a non-linear fashion, but still have a very solid story arc. So that's what I did right away. And then I also used the checklist, which is quite long, for the settings. So you have the sounds and smells and visual impact and the feelings. And I don't have all of that in every scene. And I know it's not meant to be like you have to check off every box, but it's a good checklist for, have you forgotten something here? Is it underwritten in terms of what the characters feel or not? So for me, for example, action scenes or high drama scenes are sparsely described. When someone is running for their lives, they're not stopping and looking at the intricate stone masonry, right? Yeah. And for the more quiet and reflective scenes, I have the sounds and smells and tastes and all that. So that's kind of the rule. And Fictionary StoryTeller helped me to see if I actually live by my own rules.
Terrific. And that's a really great tip that's snuck in there for writers on, it's just important not to over describe as it is to not under describe. So somewhere there's that balance, and it really is dependent on the type of scene. And if you're reading a scene where someone is running for their lives and they do stop and look at architecture, you think, no, that would not happen. And you're out of the book, out of the story, right?
Not doing it right. Yeah.
And so, it makes me think a little bit of the Jason Bourne books, where when he's running or he's in a car chase, it's like tick, 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 really fast. There's very little description, but there's enough you can see it. And so it's a really important tip you snuck in there of you have to find that right spot for the type of scene you're writing.
Yes, and I think having a tool that guides you conveniently through it, for me, it was a big help, and it got a lot of structure in the story, and overall the story editing, I think, left me with a better draft than what I had before.
Terrific. And do you remember what the biggest change you made in StoryTeller was?
Well, I moved scenes around quite a bit. So what I had as a prologue now is the middle of chapter 3. Really? I had a scene in chapter 27 that is now the beginning of the book. So some of the changes were quite drastic.
Wow. Okay, so that's really interesting. So the story arc really changed then for you when you from first import to, significantly moving scenes.
Yeah, it was a major rearrangement, and I knew this was coming, so that was no surprise. As I said, I had to write it in linear fashion,
right, just
to wrap my head around it.
Sure.
But that's not how I wanted to tell the story. So your tool, aptly called StoryTeller, helped quite a bit in rearranging it this way.
Did you outline your book before you wrote it?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
In which order? Like the straight order, or did you outline it in the nonlinear order?
So the first basic idea, I wrote the way how I wanted to tell the story, but then in order to flesh it out, I basically rearranged it in temporal fashion. So what happens first is the first scene I wrote, and so on and so on.
Right.
And that's not necessarily the way to do it, but I just felt I had to, because it's all of a sudden it looks like a lot to keep in your head when you put it in 80, 90,000 words. So I had to do it this way.
Now, I wonder too, if that helps make the end story stronger, because you're going to find plot holes. And sometimes if a novel is outlined in the non-linear fashion, it's easy to lose track of what happened when and who knew what when and that. But if you do it in one straight story, A to B, and then rearrange it, I think you have a better chance of actually keeping track of it and putting it exactly where you want it, not where you thought it should go when it was all over the place. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and that might depend on the story. So as I said, science fiction is the genre I really know well as a reader. I read other stuff, but mostly SF, and it's the only thing I ever wrote as a genre, so I can't really compare. But what was hard for me to manage in my head was the order of things to be revealed.
Yeah.
So what you read earlier as the base setting of the novel, that's what the protagonist knows, what the reader knows, and what is sort of the adopted knowledge in the galaxy. But the galaxy actually works quite differently than was described, and the reader is going to find this out through the protagonist.
Nice.
On his journey, and the reveals needed to be staged carefully. So there are minor reveals building up to really big, hopefully jaw-dropping reveals, and so on. And that would have been really hard to handle in a non-linear way at first.
Sure.
So I just needed to write it all down. What I actually did for the second book, which I'm currently writing, well, not part of this, but it's sort of a sequel to Three Immortals, is I use StoryTeller not just at the end of the first draft, but I use it at the beginning as well. So I use it as an outlining tool.
Oh, interesting.
I write a skeleton scene, very short description, and I line them all up to see if the narration in general fits the story arc, if there's a good handoff from one ending of a scene to the beginning of the next, and see how the flow is before I commit any words to digital paper.
Yeah.
So that helped me quite a bit. I'm going to continue this practice for future books. So I use StoryTeller for the outlining, then I basically write the draft, and then I do the story editing.
Oh, so that's interesting. Okay, so I can see how that would work. And I'm pretty sure we have other writers who do it. I'm not an outliner. I like to I write and then
I know they're the two types, right? And I'm the hardcore planner.
Yeah.
The world building document for Three Immortals is 48,000 words, so it's half the size of the book.
Wow.
Filled out world, which cost me a lot of time for the first novel. It saved me a lot of time for the second.
Yeah. And also it's a good respect of the readers that you're taking it seriously and that you've planned it all out, and then the readers trust you and it's a better story. And I think it's one of the hidden things that newer writers don't understand, maybe when starting out, that these things are all important and it's all part of the writing process and spending the time to get it right. So that's really nice to hear. So what's your plans for the second book? Do you have a timing on it?
Yes, if all goes well, it'll be published in September 2022 this year.
Okay, nice.
So it's coming up fairly soon.
Oh, good. We'll have to talk about that one then in September. Perfect.
That's right. If you have me again, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. So, okay, so you edit your book in Fictionary, you export it, and then what happens in your process?
Well, since I made so many heavy changes to the storyline, I needed to rewrite the scene entry and exit hooks, so the beginning and ending of every single scene. Okay. So what I do is I underwrite these parts. I write the core of the scene. I write down what happens, what people say in dialogue, what are they learning, but I don't pay too much attention to a great opener or a great closing line yet. So once I'm happy with the rearrangement and I have the full story that I can 100% commit to, this is the order of scenes, this is the order of chapters, this is the final structure, then I go in and basically add entry and exit hooks. So there is a good flow from, there's a strong beginning and then ideally some sort of maybe a cliffhanger or a thought left hanging for the reader that compels you to, basically keep reading.
Yeah. Okay, so you do that, and then? So how did you get, I guess what I'm getting at is how did you get from the story editing phase to a copy editing phase? What happened in that piece?
What I just described, that was the final copy editing,
Okay, so that was copy
story
editing. Okay.
editing step. And then I went into the weeds with copy editing.
Okay, I see.
I took the first pass, smoothed it out a little bit before I sent it to a professional editor. So I had help with that.
Okay.
I had beta readers, proofreaders. So
Nice.
the book went through many hands, and I got feedback from there as well. But I
Okay.
didn't want to send them a copy that was too, I don't know, too dirty, too many
Yeah.
typos still, too many um, things that are not smoothed out. So I wanted, even for the better readers, I wanted to have them a little bit of quality manuscript.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because you get one shot with your beta readers. And if you want them to beta read your next book, you want to respect their time and give them the best possible book that you
Absolutely.
can. Otherwise, they're thinking, I don't want to read this again. So that's a really great thing to do with that. So you go through your story editing, your copy editing, your proofreading. And then did you have help formatting the book or did you format it or how did that work?
I formatted it. So formatting documents, I mentioned the computer background earlier. It's something I had a lot of experience with. So that was something I felt confident I can do myself. And so I formatted it. And so for the first book, honestly, I don't know, you still remember shows like American Idol where people would sing and
Yeah.
many of them
Yeah.
came there and had these notion of I'm a really great singer, but they were not.
Yeah.
So the question was, am I one of them? Not for singing, but for writing. So I started to basically under my own imprint publish the book on
Nice.
Amazon
Okay.
exclusively because that was a medium where I could garner immediate feedback, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Kindle is an easy distribution system. The ratings and reviews are really easy. So honestly, I just wanted to figure out, besides my wife and my friends, do people actually like the
Yeah.
book? So
Yeah.
that is the test balloon. And I plan to go wider from there.
Okay.
The book is available in print as well, but right
Nice.
now it's mostly ebook sales. And I wanted to have this quick turnaround
Nice.
to get real feedback.
Nice. Well, unfortunately I don't have my print copy here yet, but I'm a print. You can see my shelf here. This is all Fictionary edited books behind me. So I'm collecting them. And if I get them in time for the interview, I go, oh, hey, look, I have the book, but it didn't, it's in the mail. So there we are. But I
No problem.
love getting the books and reading them. And it just, I don't know, it's a feel good moment for me. So I really like it when authors have a print copy. And with print on demand these days, it's easy to do. There it is. Yay. Okay,
It
wait,
does
hold it up a
exist.
little slower. Just hold it a little bit longer.
All right.
You really see it. Really nice. Okay, now that begs the question, who
And of
designed
course,
that beautiful cover?
Christopher Dahl is my cover artist, and he created a lot of great science fiction book covers. He also does a lot, he specialized in space art, so it felt like a really
Oh,
natural fit. And he is designing the cover art for the second book as well, and
nice.
if he's available for the third.
Nice. That's great. Well, shout out to Christopher. That's a beautiful cover, which means a lot, obviously, with books. We all know that. Don't judge a book by its cover, but hey,
But we do, don't we?
it's a book. Okay, so you've got book 2 underway now. You're going to get that out hopefully by September. And then are you going to write a third in the series or?
Yes. So it's a trilogy, if you will, but all 3 books can be read as standalone novels. So the story arc for each book comes to a hopefully satisfactory conclusion.
Yeah.
So the reader will not be, there's no cliffhanger, right, that forces you to buy the second or third
Right.
book. I hope you will. I hope you like the story, but you don't have to, or you can start with the second, and you will still understand what's going on even if you're missing out on the first.
Right.
However, there are story arcs that become apparent at the trilogy level.
Nice, nice. And that's a fun thing when you are editing your third book, is to be looking at the inciting incident in book one and the climax in book three and see, are they mirrors? What's happening? Is the big question answered? So it gets kind of fun and interesting at that point to when you're really looking at the story arcs together and seeing if they fit. And it's kind of neat when you have a series and you can go and you just lay out inciting incident from book one to the climax, inciting incident book two, climax, inciting incident book three, and just have it. And then you can see the whole arc together. That, I don't know, I can't, kind of a little geeky on the story arc thing, but I just find it really interesting when you look at a
I
series.
think it's the visualization of it is such a great tool to just see. I know it's only one feature in your application, so there is a lot more, but this is one where it's so easy to just grasp if something is wrong with the story, not with the how you tell it or the story itself, but the way how it's currently arranged.
Yeah.
I believe lots of stories really suffer from bad arrangement, right? If you reveal something really cool way too early and then you go through a desert of nothing's really happening. And it would be much nicer if that reveal came at later. So it really helps you to make the book better for the reader.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really great. Super exciting talking to you. As you know, I'm going to post the buy links to your book in the YouTube channel and in our social media so people can buy it. Is there another way people can reach you online?
Well, I have a website that also contains all links to everything you just mentioned, all the social media. It is my full, but very long name, Bert-Oliver Boehmer.com.
.com. Okay, I can find that, and I'll put that in the links too, so people can find you. I'm really looking forward to reading your book, and I'm looking forward to interviewing you again in September.
Sounds very good.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for having me today. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome.